Hey guys, Yuliya here. So in today's video I will be talking about weeds and how I get rid of them in my garden. Now before I go on, I just wanted to address a couple of things. First of all, what is a weed is a very subjective thing. Now for one person, a weed is an unwanted plant in their garden, and for another person, same plant could be an edible plant. So it is totally up to your personal experience and feelings whether to get rid of that plant or keep it in your garden. And secondly, this video is not what you should do about weeds in your garden, and more of me sharing my personal experience with weeds and dealing with them in my own garden. So more like a gardener to gardener sharing their experience in hope that you may incorporate some of the practices that I've used over the years in my own garden, and maybe that will be successful in yours. Now before I get rid of the weeds, I should be able to identify them. And I have this book that I love so much, which I mentioned a number of times in my Instagram stories, and this is Insect Disease and Weed ID Guide. It's just a little book, but it has tons of information. So it has mainly botanical drawings of a lot of weeds, so they are easy to identify. It also has a lot of advice and instruction on how to get rid of them organically. So definitely go either on Amazon or just Google this book and see if you can get it. So weed prevention is key in my garden, and this time of the year is a perfect time to start smothering your weeds. And it depends on which area of the garden I'm working on, whether I have my annual weeds there or there are some perennial weeds. If I have perennial weeds, I would definitely layer some newspaper before I mulch the bed. If I know that I have not that big of a problem and only annual weeds, I will just layer 1 inch to 2 inches of hardwood mulch, and it works really well for almost the entire season. I would say hardwood mulch starts to break down maybe by end of August, but that time my perennial beds fill out so fast and my garden is so full that weeds do not stand a chance. There is so much competition for sunlight and nutrients and water that there's just no way weed seeds can germinate. Which brings me to another point, is that I plant my perennial beds very thickly, both with perennials and annuals. Now, I do follow spacing for shrubs and trees, but with perennials and annuals, I do plant them quite close, because that space in between the plants, you do not want that vacant. And in fact, if you think about it, bare earth is the most unnatural thing on this planet because, as you know, you've seen those plants in cracks between concrete. Plants just want to invade vacant spaces, so those spaces either have to be planted or mulched. Now, in a space where you cannot grow lawn or perennial bed or mulch, you can use ground covers, and ground covers probably require their own video, and I can talk about their site conditions and different ground covers that are suitable for that. But ground covers planted in the proper location are great weed suppressants. Now, if I miss an opportunity to smother weeds in the spring, which does happen if I get really busy with my other projects, what do I do then? And the answer is I hand pull or I use tools to get rid of the weeds. So the first tool that I use is this diamond hoe, or also known as Dutch hoe. So let me show you how it works. So here in my woodland garden, I haven't weeded in about 2 years, and it definitely shows. So I have this snakeroot plant that's starting to grow all over the place, and snakeroot is a native plant, great for pollinators, but this is becoming very aggressive. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the hoe and sever the roots. I mean, I can pull it, but it's actually really hard to pull. It's easier to just use the hoe and cut it at the roots like that. Now, what you can do, you can just leave these plants here. They're young enough, they will not resprout, and mulch on top. But you can see this is a good example right here. Look at that. You see how it just cut off the roots? It's not great. So the Fisker's weeder works great for those weeds with deep tap roots like dandelions. And the Woodland Garden to the rescue, again, have some juicy dandelions here. So what you do, you place the weeder on top of the plant, the center, you step on it, and then you pull, and there comes out your plant, the root and everything. Look at that. And then you just go like this. Well, not on the ground. You can have a bucket or a garbage bag or something. And here's another one right here. Let's do it again. There we go. Look at that. You do not need to kneel. The whole plant is out. Again, pop it out. Done. There's a thistle right here. Let's get the thistle too. Thistle is gone. So as you can see, super easy. If you have any back problems, you could get rid of a lot of weeds without any pain. All right, so now I wanted to talk about the bane of my existence this spring, which is the garlic grass. But before I go into the detail about how to get rid of it, I wanted to show you this no-dig method bed that we started exactly 12 months ago. And I did not weed this bed once, and the only weeds that popped up here are the garlic grass, because it's just incessant and it's very tough to get rid of. So, but as you can see, the rest of it is weed free. That's a daffodil right there, and there's some hostas coming up. But the no-dig method works for weed suppression for sure. So let me talk about the garlic grass. It is really tough to get rid of. So when you try to pull it by hand, you get the top portion of it, and then about 3 inches deep there are bulbs of this garlic grass. So you either have to get a shovel or something to get rid of the bulbs, because otherwise it will regrow. And if you let it bloom, it will seed all over your garden. So I did try Fisker's. Fisker's does work, but it only gets the portion of the plant. So this year, as you guys saw in the previous video, I got a Pro Plugger, and let me show you how it works. So you already met the Pro Plugger in the last video, and it's a great tool for planting small size annuals, but it's also great for weeding things like garlic grass. So what you do, you can just step on top of the plant like this and cut in. Now these are the tops of the garlic grass, and you think, oh my goodness, it didn't work. But if you do this, the plug comes out, and you can see that you got all of your bulbs. There's an earthworm in here that I severed, but it's okay. Look at this. All of this was underground, and it would take a shovel to get rid of it. But now I will just toss it in the trash. Do not put it in the compost. It will never biodegrade. Probably takes years for it to biodegrade. But anyway, this works amazing. And I just wanted to mention this Cobra weeder. I've had this tool for years. It is very sturdy, and it is for those smaller weeding jobs where you can just sit and meditate and weed for just 10 minutes. This is incredibly helpful to get those roots out. Alright guys, this is how I deal with weeds in my garden, and you're probably wondering, what about the herbicides? And the truth is, I do not use any herbicides in my garden because I find them less efficient, more expensive, and a lot of them, even the most organic ones, have a lot of side effects. For example, vinegar can acidify your soil a lot, and salt can really damage your soil that you won't be able to grow anything there. So if you go the herbicide route, you can do your research, and I highly recommend that you go to .edu websites as opposed to .com websites, because there's a lot of misinformation there on the internet about different chemical compounds. So this particular weed management in my garden is for this time of the year, so middle to late spring. The summer weed management is a little bit different, and the main point during the summer is not to let your weeds go to seed. So anytime you see any weeds blooming, just make sure you cut those heads off or seed heads off. And if you decide to pull your weeds, make sure you don't shake them a lot. I know we're trying to get the soil out, but when you shake those weeds that are already producing seeds, you're just spreading more weeds. Also during the summer, you can use tarp or black plastic to smother a lot of really noxious weeds. But so I deal with my weeds in mechanical method. I find it very meditative, but my garden is approximately half an acre. If you have acres and acres of land, your weed management can change, and it really can depend on design practices as well, because if you design your garden where lots of your perennial beds smother the weeds and you have lots of ground covers, or you mulch on time, you really can suppress a lot of weeds this way. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this video and you can incorporate some of these practices in your own garden. As per usual, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I would love to stay in touch with you, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye. I think I forgot something. Did I forget something? I know. You don't want that? No. Oh. Okay. Okay.
Heard an advertising.
Why? Hey guys, Yuliya here. So in today's video, I will be talking about weeds and how I deal with them in my garden. The flow. There's no flow. To gardener. So I can tell you, I can give you my personal experience. I can give you some, depends on your, I can't.